Day 26. Exodus 14-15. Then the Lord said to Moses, Tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You are to encamp by the sea, directly opposite Baal-zephon. For Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, They are wandering the land in confusion, the wilderness has boxed them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them. But I will gain honor by means of Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So this is what the Israelites did. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, What have we done? We have released Israel from serving us. So Pharaoh prepared his chariot and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt so that he pursued the Israelites, who were marching out defiantly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea near Pi-hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw the Egyptians marching after them, and they were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us into the wilderness to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Did we not say to you in Egypt, Leave us alone so that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses told the people, Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the Lord's salvation, which he will accomplish for you today, for the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still. Then the Lord said to Moses, Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. And as for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. Then I will gain honor by means of Pharaoh and all his army and chariots and horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I am honored through Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. And the angel of God, who had gone before the camp of Israel, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from before them and stood behind them, so that it came between the camps of Egypt and Israel. The cloud was there in the darkness, but it lit up the night. So all night long neither camp went near the other. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove back the sea with a strong east wind that turned it into dry land. So the waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on their right and on their left. And the Egyptians chased after them, all Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and horsemen, and followed them into the sea. At morning watch, however, the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians from the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw their camp into confusion. He caused their chariot wheels to wobble, so that they had difficulty driving. Let us flee from the Israelites, said the Egyptians, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal state. As the Egyptians were retreating, the Lord swept them into the sea. The waters flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had chased the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites had walked through the sea on dry ground, with walls of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore. When Israel saw the great power that the Lord had exercised over the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord, I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and army he has cast into the sea, the finest of his officers are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them, they sank there like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, is majestic in power, your right hand, O Lord, has shattered the enemy. You overthrew your adversaries by your great majesty. You unleashed your burning wrath, it consumed them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils the waters piled up, like a wall the currents stood firm, the depths congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy declared, I will pursue, I will overtake. I will divide the spoils, I will gorge myself on them. I will draw my sword, my hand will destroy them. But you blew with your breath, and the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who among the gods is like you, O Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, revered with praises, performing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them up. With loving devotion you will lead the people you have redeemed, with your strength you will guide them to your holy dwelling. The nations will hear and tremble, anguish will grip the dwellers of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom will be dismayed, trembling will seize the leaders of Moab, those who dwell in Canaan will melt away, and terror and dread will fall on them. By the power of your arm they will be as still as a stone until your people pass by, O Lord, until the people you have bought pass by. You will bring them in and plant them on the mountain of your inheritance, the place, O Lord, you have prepared for your dwelling, the sanctuary, O Lord, your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever and ever. For when Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and horsemen went into the sea, the Lord brought the waters of the sea back over them. But the Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground. Then Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women followed her with tambourines and dancing. And Miriam sang back to them, Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted, the horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the desert of Shur. For 3 days they walked in the desert without finding water. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink the water there because it was bitter. That is why it was named Marah. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, What are we to drink? And Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a log. And when he cast it into the waters, they were sweetened. There the Lord made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he tested them, saying, If you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his eyes, and pay attention to his commands, and keep all his statutes, then I will not bring on you any of the diseases I inflicted on the Egyptians. For I am the Lord who heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the waters. Matthew 17. After 6 days Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared before them, talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While Peter was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell face down in terror. Then Jesus came over and touched them. Get up, he said. Do not be afraid. And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, Do not tell anyone about this vision until the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. The disciples asked him, Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Jesus replied, Elijah does indeed come, and he will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him whatever they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man will suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. When they came to the crowd, a man came up to Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering terribly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. O unbelieving and perverse generation! Jesus replied. How long must I remain with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Then Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed from that moment. Afterward the disciples came to Jesus privately and asked, Why couldn't we drive it out? Because you have so little faith, he answered. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. When they gathered together in Galilee, Jesus told them, The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the 3rd day he will be raised to life. And the disciples were deeply grieved. After they had arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax came to Peter and asked, "Does your teacher pay the 2 drachmas?" "Yes," he answered. When Peter entered the house, Jesus preempted him. "What do you think, Simon?" he asked. "From whom do the kings of the earth collect customs and taxes, from their own sons, or from others?" "From others," Peter answered. "Then the sons are exempt," Jesus declared. "But so that we may not offend them, go to the sea, cast a hook, and take the first fish you catch. When you open its mouth, you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours."